But it's interesting as you're watching this game with me, you point out that when they can't run the ball, it changes them. In what way? How significant?
Well, you just think about all the horizontal stretch they get. They like to run the football outside. Part of that is kind of getting to the edge. So whether it's blocking down with the receiver on an edge player, whether it's a tight end getting there. But Hassan Reddick gave them fits. Like Miami ran the football for less than 50 yards in this football game. They've been running it on everybody, and people are scared to death of the speed that they have in the backfield. But when you aren't able to get to the perimeter, now all of a sudden that speed is not as dangerous when you're keeping it inside, and then, oh, by the way, all your help is coming from in there. So that matters. And then obviously there's play action and stuff that comes off of it. But I thought, to me, making them one-dimensional, Miami offensively, that is, like, that had a big factor in this football game.
How did the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Miami Dolphins so handily? I know there's a lot of people out there complaining and whining and bitching about the referees and all the penalties. That's hogwash. That's complete BS. I won't even talk about that. The only people blaming a loss on referees and penalties are fans. Players never blame a loss on penalties. It just doesn't happen.
People can say that the penalties this, the penalties that. Like, for us as a team, we're not throwing that out as an excuse.
But what if some of us saw something about this matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Miami Dolphins and talked about it in depth before the game was even played? Each week before every single game, I give my keys to the game. And in this particular instance, I nailed it. In my cold open, I included something that Colin Cowherd said, and he nailed it as well.
Dolphins at Eagles.
I'll take Philly -2.5 to win and cover at home. Listen, the offensive line, Lane Johnson's going to play. It's a top 3 offensive line against the weak Miami defensive line. This is a time of possession game, and Jalen Hurts, last 13 home games, has been remarkable. 32 touchdowns, 6 picks. The Dolphins are a little bit of a speedboat in a mirage. Easiest schedule in the NFL by far. 26th ranked scoring defense. Opposing quarterbacks are getting 99 passer ratings. So what's Jalen Hurts behind that O-line and those weapons and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith? What's he going to get at home? I don't buy Miami like everybody else. Philadelphia wins 31-24 and controls the game.
In my cold open, Colin Cowherd said that he mentioned that this game would be based upon time of possession. And it was, as the Philadelphia Eagles dominated time of possession. The Eagles held the ball for nearly 37 minutes. The Dolphins, just 23. Also in that cold open, Colin Cowherd said that he expected that Jalen Hurts would have a good passer rating. Why do you think that? Because so far, Miami Dolphins quarterback opponents have averaged 99 as their quarterback rating. So what was Hurts' rating against the Dolphins? It was a whopping 109.5. So as much as people want to scream and bemoan about what Colin Cowherd said, he absolutely was dead on with his prediction. Did he have a crystal ball? Nope. Didn't need one. Then I said this later on in the video. You may not agree with Colin Cowherd, but something he said was spot on. This game will be won or lost in the trenches. The Eagles have the obvious advantage with their offensive line going against the Dolphins' defensive line. The Eagles have one of the best offensive lines in all of the NFL, and injured Lane Johnson is back this week after spraining his ankle last week against the Jets. Christian Wilkins, Emmanuel Ogbah, Zach Sealer, Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, they might have quite the long evening. So in this video, I'm going to put the focus on the Miami Dolphins offensive line when they're facing the Philadelphia Eagles defensive front. Dolphins are going to have to score a lot of points. And to score points, Tua Tagovailoa needs protection and time, and Raheem Mostert and Salvon Ahmed are going to need holes. There is no way the Miami Dolphins can win this game if Tua doesn't have time and there are no holes available for Raheem Mostert and the running backs to run through. Let me say that again with clarity. If the Miami Dolphins offensive line does not give Tua Tagovailoa time to throw, and in addition, if they don't open the holes for the running backs, the Miami Dolphins cannot win. I can already hear what you're saying. Barry, duh, if you can't pass and you can't run, of course you can't win. I'm saying it because it's relevant to this game. because this is the first opponent that the Miami Dolphins are playing who could actually cause that to happen. They could pressure Tua and not allow any holes for Raheem Mostert and running backs to run through. As of yet this season, the Miami Dolphins have not faced a front seven like the Philadelphia Eagles have. Don't look at a 5-1 record. Don't look at rankings. Don't look at yards per carry. The Dolphins haven't faced any team thus far with a front seven like the Eagles. I said the game would be won or lost in the trenches, and I was 100% right. More importantly, as you saw in that clip, I said that the Dolphins could not win this game. There would be no way they could win this game if the team became one-dimensional on offense. I said if the Dolphins couldn't run and couldn't pass, there'd be no way they could beat the Eagles. And no, I didn't have a crystal ball either. So how did Colin know what he knew, and how did I know what I knew? What I'm about to tell you, I told a few friends, and they made a lot of money on the Philadelphia-Miami Dolphins game. I don't bet on football, but if I did, this was as surefire a winner as any game that I've seen thus far. And trust me, it will happen again. It's a bit complicated, but I'll try to explain. We all know that the Miami Dolphins have only beat losing teams, but that's not the dead giveaway. Let me tell you what the secret is to beating the Miami Dolphins. Number one, you have to have a team that's methodical and can maintain time of possession and can score when opportunity presents itself. Number two, you have to have a team that can pressure the quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, and limit yards after catch, YAC. And number three, you have to be able to stop the running game. Both the Buffalo Bills and the Philadelphia Eagles did just that. But Barry, Devon Achane had 101 yards rushing against the Buffalo Bills. That's something you might say. However, 55 of those yards came on one play. Everybody knows that Tyreek, Waddle, Achane, Mostert, all the speed demons have an opportunity and could break any single play. The key is to understand that and to limit the number of big plays that the Miami Dolphins can get. Those three elements that I mentioned earlier, that's what's needed to beat the Miami Dolphins. But what's most interesting is it's not just the Miami Dolphins. It's happening across the league with teams who are running the Shanahan-style offense. I personally believe that because with all these Shanahan-style schemes, it's taken a while for the league to catch up, and I think they're finally doing so. In addition to the 49ers, look what's happening to the Bengals and the Rams as well. In order to understand what I'm saying, you have to understand what the Shanahan offense is and what makes it tick. Obviously, knowing how it works tells you how to stop it. Let me show you what the Shanahan offense looks like under the hood. I found the Shanahan offense being discussed on Reddit, and I wanted to take you through this. It's pretty accurate. I've had a few coaches look at it and go, yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's go over it. I've highlighted some paragraphs for you to really focus in on. The Shanahan offense is almost exclusively zone blocking, and today's zone blocking is the primary form of run blocking in the NFL and in major college football. All NFL teams use some kind of zone blocking run schemes. The Shanahan offense of today is a more evolved offense from the original. Obviously, Mike McDaniel has evolved even further. With a huge commitment to outside zone, wide zone. This is a zone run play where the line attempt to either seal defenders inside or drive them to the sidelines, while the running backs attack outside, either continuing outside or cutting hard upfield once a major cut-up lane appears, or if the defense bites too hard on the outside run action. When ran right, it's a very high efficiency play, and we've seen that. The offense primarily operates out of a one-back set. We've seen that as well, whether from under center, pistol, or shotgun. This allows the offense to always have 4 vertical threats, 4 potential receivers at or near the line of scrimmage on all plays. Since one-back sets give more receiver formation possibilities, the current Shanahan offense uses mostly 11 and 12 personnel groupings. Some people call it 21, but in any event, it's 4 receivers and 1 back and maybe a tight end. The current Shanahan offense also relies heavily on using those extra receivers and tight ends in the running game, which Miami doesn't. They used Chase Claypool in this last Eagles game a couple times. And here's the key. Lots of jet sweeps and reverse actions to complement the zone scheme. run zone one way, then threaten the other way with receiver, running a sweep action, or occasionally even a tight end. Tight ends more so, but receivers are always used a lot more to pin, crack back block, or block out, shield some box defenders away from the run plays. Packers do this a lot with Allen Lazard. This is before he went to the Jets, and the Rams with Cooper Kupp. The offense uses a lot of compressed bunch type formations where two or more receivers or tight ends are packed tight in the line of scrimmage, creating lots of good down blocking angles, misdirection possibilities, and uncertainty to defensive pass coverage. That's really important. It's designed to create uncertainty in defensive pass coverages about who is going to attack where when they run a route. You've seen that with the Miami Dolphins offense. Let's continue. The reason why this offense is so popular is the coaching tree it stems from. All the coaches who formerly worked for Mike and Kyle Shanahan, moving on to offensive coordinator and head coaching roles of their own, and the system's reputation. Pay attention here. The system's reputation for making average quarterbacks good and good quarterbacks great. Understand what I just said. The system is designed to take average quarterbacks and make them good, and take good quarterbacks and make them great. The system is designed to do that. Obviously, we've seen that with the Miami Dolphins. Not looking to trash Tua, I'm talking to you about the system. The system was designed. That's the scheme with the Shanahan offense. Don't blame me. That's how it was created. It was created to take average quarterbacks and make them appear good, and take good quarterbacks and make them appear great. Now let's look at Mike McDaniel's iteration of the Shanahan offense. So this was in an article that appeared in the Miami Herald last year, and I want you to pay attention to what you're going to see here. As the Dolphins use references to implement their new offense under first-year coach Mike McDaniel, they look no further than his old stomping grounds with the San Francisco 49ers. Bringing that offense here. Fullback Alec Ingold, watch Pro Bowler, I'm not even going to say Kyle's last name, left guard Liam Eichenberg got tips from former Notre Dame teammate tackle Mike McGlinchey, and quarterback Tua Tagovailoa studied the footwork and timing of Jimmy Garoppolo. He studied Jimmy G to run this system. Okay, so let's continue. The Shanahan offense, which centers around zone blocking, as I told you, and West Coast passing concepts, is the foundation of the scheme McDaniel brought to the Dolphins. It's an offense McDaniel saw up close as a ball boy for the Mike Shanahan-led Broncos, and has operated within just about each of his NFL stops, most of it beside Mike's son Kyle, who's the coach of 49ers. You know this part. Okay, so let's continue. One of the main fixtures McDaniel brought from his time in San Francisco was the use of zone blocking running schemes, which is focused on the offensive line moving in unison to create lateral displacement as opposed to blocking a specific player. Yes, you have seen that. Let's continue down here as it gets more important. This is probably the part of all of this that I want you to concentrate on. Pre-snap motion. Part of the evolution of the Shanahan offense has been the use of pre-snap motion, which can help create better blocking angles in the running game and reveal the defense's coverage in the passing game. I want you to really focus on that from what you're about to see. The entire motion, the deception that they're running out there is completely designed to reveal the defensive's coverage in the passing game. Last season, the 49ers ranked first in their use of pre-snap motion. The Dolphins were also top 5 in the use of pre-snap motion, but it has increased significantly under McDaniel. According to ESPN, Miami has used pre-snap motion on 75% of its plays this season. This was last year, which leads the NFL. Second is the 49ers at 71%. I'm pretty sure it's even higher this year. Both Tua and Garoppolo have excelled with pre-snap motion. Continuing with the article, this is a quote from Mike McDaniel himself. Just motioning in general from a starting point, defenses have to defend as a group. We prioritize motioning so that they have to communicate. It's not just to do it, but it's one of the reasons that's such a big part of our offense is because we believe if we train it, we can stress defenses in that way. That's probably the biggest thing you have to take from this article. He believes in pre-snap motions because those pre-snap motions are going to stress the defense. I hope you understand what he just said. Pre-snap motion is critical to the success of the Miami Dolphins offense. It's what Tua has been taught. It's what Mike McDaniel wants to run. It's what they rely on in terms of defenses not understanding what's going to be happening on any specific play. So what happens in the Shanahan offense, the McDaniel offense, that's designed on motion being the deception that makes it hard for defenses to understand what the play is? What happens in that offense that's designed to make average quarterbacks good and good quarterbacks great when the motion is completely ignored? And what happens when the motion is ignored and the quarterback on the field during the play has to make adjustments on the fly? You get the Buffalo Bills and Philadelphia Eagles games as a result. What you've seen with the Buffalo Bills and Philadelphia Eagles is two defensive coordinators who said, you know what? Here's what we do. We put the entire onus of this offense onto Tua Tagovailoa. Make him do post-snap adjustments on the fly where Mike McDaniel can't help him. Take away his initial reads, ignore the motion and deception, and make Tua make the right decision. Make Tua run. Dare him to make a play. Obviously, that's easier said than done. But that's why Miami is pounding crappy teams and having a hard time with playoff caliber teams. It has nothing to do with having a soft schedule. People are focusing on the wrong thing. The problem is these soft teams, per se, don't have the personnel to stop what Mike McDaniel and the Miami Dolphins are doing. But that's not the case with playoff caliber teams. They have the ability and they have the personnel to stop the Miami Dolphins. And they're doing it by focusing on making Tua do everything. I'm going to show you this piece that ran on ESPN. I doubt you've seen it anywhere. Nobody wants you to see it. They probably just want it to go away. And it explains everything clearly in regards to what I just said about ignoring the motion and making Tua be the onus, making Tua be the catalyst to do something post-snap. And it's also why it was so easy for me to basically do my keys to the game and foretell what was about to happen. So let's watch this together.
I said you cut the head off the snake of Miami, and that's probably how you can deal with this offense, because we were talking about how they spread you so thin offensively with all of those weapons. The head of the snake is Tua, and this is what's becoming my concern, Dan, when I watch Tua play against teams that are very high pressure. Yeah. We talked about the first read and how he doesn't seem like he knows what to do after that's not available.
It doesn't seem like he knows what to do after the first read is not available. I know it's hard for a lot of Dolphins fans to understand, but we all see it. If that first read isn't available, I wouldn't go as far as saying it doesn't look like he knows what to do. I would just say that obviously the decision-making capacity after the first read isn't available is problematic.
But also, I'm not sure about his playmaking ability outside of structure. The two things that has held up in Buffalo game and in the Philly game, we take away your first read, eyes drop down, rush affects you.
Can I hit on that real quick?
Please.
I don't think your point is off. I think that's attached to the injuries. I think a lot
Mentally.
and just...
You see where they're going here? That second read now is on the onus of the quarterback. That's why you see Jimmy G, Joe Burrow, and some of these guys, even Matt Stafford, who have to be able to think on their feet and go with that second read. Brock Purdy. And if that second read dictates you have to run, you get off your ass and run. Tua is not going to do that because he's also thinking injury.
Knowing don't get hit.
Right.
Don't get hit. Because what have we said about Tua?
Yeah.
Just if you avoid injury, you'll be really good.
That is what causes me the most concern about Miami.
I think that's a good point.
When he has to play out of structure, it looks completely different.
Yeah.
Man, when this dude back foot hit the ground and he letting the ball go, it's as beautiful as anything in the league.
Agree.
See, nobody doubts that. If Tua can get set and he can find his receiver, we've seen it. He can deliver with no question. It's when he's not set and the play's not going according to plan, i.e. not structure.
Outside of that, though, you need more than that in order to win a championship.
Really quick on that, then you're saying it's more so willingness
Yeah.
to do.
And
that's important to have a feel for that, because if it's needed late in the season, he has to be willing
and
to take that
it's going to be RC.
All right, so understand what he just said there. And I'm not the only one who saw that. I'm not the only one who's looked at film. You don't hear this with other YouTubers. They'll never tell you this. But if the willingness to run isn't there, that's a huge key for defensive coordinators. Just go ahead, pin your ears back, go after him, ignore other stuff, because we're going to dare him to run. We don't think he wants to take that on. He's not going to leave the pocket, and if he does, he's not the same quarterback. Swagoo and Ryan Clark and Dan Orlovsky and myself and Colin and other people are seeing this. That willingness to run and take off if things go south is what he's not doing. Yeah, he runs it here and there, but he doesn't want to. Is a willingness there? I'm not going to convict him, but it doesn't seem so.
Maybe he unleashes it then, you know?
Yeah. And I think this is about adjustments for both Tua and Mike McDaniel. This is the second game we've seen a defensive coordinator. Last night it was Sean Desai for the Philadelphia Eagles have a great plan. The plan was to not kind of interact or adjust off of the motions that we're going to see.
Now watch this. This is critical to what I said earlier about how important pre-snap motion is to the Miami Dolphins, is to the Shanahan scheme. What happens if you take away or you ignore pre-snap motion? Watch this.
So 21 personnel, 2 backs, 1 tight end, okay? Now the Eagles, I love this. They decided to play base defense. That means 5 defensive linemen for the
Now that 5th defensive lineman, you see this guy down here? That's a defensive end out in the slot. That's a defensive end out in the slot there.
2 linebackers. Both those guys, or those 3 guys in the middle, Marcus, you see them covering the guards in the center. Yes, now the motion comes. What do? This is Josh Sweat at the slot. He's going to hit the slot right away at the line of scrimmage. I love what they do here. Inside linebacker, where the Eagle logo is, you get depth. Sweat, you get width. No one's reacting to the motion. They're just making sure to take away the throw and the lateral. Sweat out in space. Tyreek Hill catches it 8 yards behind the line of scrimmage. That's for no gain. Second.
Do you understand that? Completely ignore the pre-snap motion. Hey guys, don't even look at it. What you're going to do is just stop it in this regard. We're going to fade here towards the middle. We're going to take a shove at the slot guy. We're not even going to pay attention to the pre-snap motion.
This is their bread and butter play, right guys? This is the rail route, the slant, and then the flat. I love what they did at the end man line of scrimmage. That's the conflict guy. They told him, don't play in conflict. Go get the quarterback. Force the ball to come out of his hands. Linebacker, do not pay attention to the run. Go laterally for that.
Don't even pay attention to the run. I don't know how somebody could have just ignored the run, but they must have seen something. I can tell you what they saw. They know that Jordan Davis, Fletcher Cox, and Jalen Carter weren't going to allow the Dolphins to run up the middle.
Slant, and then that forces 1 throw. Ball to the sideline. That equals 3rd and 3 now instead of a huge gain. Simulated pressures. They walk people up into the line of scrimmage. I love the fact that they forced Tua just to play a second slower. Who's coming, who's not coming. As those droppers.
That second slower is because he's noticing nobody's paying attention to the motion. You don't see guys running across the field trying to catch up with the motion guys.
Get out. Right now, watch the slot near the bottom of the screen. The ball would be out right now if it was Tua, if he wasn't looking at those droppers. But he's a hesitation second late that allows Darius Slay to fall off, and then there's an incomplete pass. So I loved that Sean Desai said, 21 personnel, we're going to play base. We're going to walk Josh Sweat out and be physical at the line. Just take away that first throw linebacker, Sweat, you played horizontally, and then that forced vision, and then that second clip. I love the fact that they took away that number 1 play and told those defensive linemen, go.
Yep. That Josh Sweat play is exactly what I was just talking about.
Yep.
No quarterback threat run, no threat from his legs or making a play. I can sit my defensive end out there.
Yeah.
I don't have to account for it.
Putting a defensive end out on a slot receiver because Tua is not a threat to run.
He doesn't have to be in space versus 2 guys, essentially.
Buddy.
That's it. That's how you stop the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, easier said than done. Let me just say that again. You have to have the personnel in place to do that, to make it happen. You need that strong defensive front. You need people who are agile and quick. But in terms of just ignoring the motion, now it's a completely different picture in front of you if you're a defensive coordinator, if you're a defensive player. I'm not watching these guys zigzag and stuff because I know where they're going. I've seen enough of them on film to know what the end result is. I know if Tyreek's coming here, he's probably going to do this or that. I just need to watch what's in front of me and put everything on Tua. Now, that's why that easy opponent argument is out there. That's why they're talking about soft schedules. There's nothing to do with the soft schedule. It's about having the personnel in place that where you can dictate to the Miami Dolphins. Those teams that they beat didn't have that personnel. Those 5 teams, except for the Chargers got close. Chargers had time of possession. They did put some pressure. Joey Bosa or Nick Bosa, forget which one it was pretty much absent, but they only won by 2 points. Buffalo and Philadelphia executed flawlessly. They didn't care about the motion. They ran the defense to stop the Miami Dolphins, and they had the personnel. Now for the good news. I know you're looking for some good news because, like, Barry, this is horrible. No, because not many teams do have that personnel. There aren't too many teams in the league who can do that in terms of what the Philadelphia Eagles and Buffalo Bills did. There's not many teams on the schedule that have the personnel to force it and put it all on Tua. But the bad news is most of the playoff caliber teams absolutely do have the personnel. And the teams that don't have the personnel are going to work hard, especially in the later half of the year, to get that personnel in place. That's why the Philadelphia Eagles immediately, next day, went and signed an all-pro safety. Hey, Tyreek just burned the hell out of this guy. We may see these guys again in the playoffs or possibly the Super Bowl. Get him out of here. Let's get him acclimated to our system. Let's bring in an all-pro safety. We want to have the best personnel in case we have to face a team like this again, whether it be the Dolphins or the 49ers. The Eagles recognized immediately this is a weak link. Let's go ahead and change that. Just remember, as you go forward, it's not about the schedule. I myself have talked about the schedule until I started digging deep into the film, and then you realize it's not about the schedule. It's about the personnel. How important is the personnel? Well, you have to be able to do everything of those 3 keys I said. One of those keys was time of possession and be able to convert when necessary. The Jets, formidable opponent on defense. I think the Jets have the defense to stop the Miami Dolphins. They don't have the offense. So it has to be a team that can both keep methodical time of possession going and convert opportunities when they present themselves. Defensively, you have to have a strong up front, and you got to be able to execute and ignore the pre-snap motion. So there will be teams in the playoffs who have the personnel to make that happen. How many are on the actual schedule? I guess you could probably go through the schedule and figure it out yourself. But that's what's needed to beat the Miami Dolphins. You see, good teams are now beginning to figure out what's needed to stop the Shanahan offense. And with Mike McDaniel's iteration, you now have 2 strong game films to look at. The Buffalo Bills and the Philadelphia Eagles to try and put something together with a combination of that. If you have the personnel, you'll be able to stop the Miami Dolphins. Let's see how things evolve. I'm not sure which teams have the personnel and ability to do what the Bills and the Eagles did, but you're going to see that in the weeks ahead. And don't forget, feel free to join me tonight, 7 p.m. to a Tuesday. Just click here to be notified. We're going to go over all of this in depth and get your comments on it as well. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon. Fins up.
Is anybody catching on to this Barry guy?